it's an equal value, so it's not gambling. It's just loot boxes. So I thought that was interesting that Ireland has kind of taken a stand on, loot boxes and kind of basically said we shouldn't be regulating this. It's up to the government. And, because I feel like, I said I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to. I feel like if we open up this can of worms of letting governments start regulating the gaming industry, then, because I know for the longest time, here in America, I can't remember that lawyer's name, but he was such a pain in the ass for the gaming industry. He was always wanting, violent video games cause people to murder. Violent video games cause people to do mass shootings. That's why Columbine happened. That's, they're training these kids to be calm, cool, and collective during, causing massacres. And so, we've gone through that phase. The last thing that we need is governments to start stepping in and regulating in the gaming industry of, okay, you can't do this and this now. And then, because that opens the door of, well, we pushed and they did this, so if we push a little bit harder, we could probably get them to stop making first-person shooters, or we could get them to stop putting sex in video games, or we could stop, violence altogether in video games. And, I mean, at that point, we're just playing, Scrabble. And, so I feel like this is a dangerous can of worms to open up, having governments try to regulate an industry like this when there's already regulations put into place. There's ESRB ratings, there's a board of people who rate video games, just like there's a board of people who rate movies. That's how movies get their ratings, and that's how video games get their ratings. So we already have something set in place, and if they want to put, in games that have loot boxes, if they want to put an ESRB rating for mature of, there's loot boxes in here, or, if it's a sports game, and that's the only negative thing on there is the loot boxes, just put a thing of, hey, there's loot boxes in this game. It's really not rocket science, and then if people see oh, there's loot boxes in this game, I don't want to support a game with loot boxes, so I'm not going to buy it. And then at that point, we're self-regulating as, the consumers, and we're letting the companies know, hey, we don't want to buy these games that have loot boxes in it. And that's how they'll truly be able to know whether or not consumers want games with loot boxes in it. Anyway, I digress. Lastly, in gaming, so I'm going to try to say his name, and I hope I don't butcher it. Andrzej Sapkowski, the author of the Witcher novels, is demanding further compensation from CD Projekt Red for royalties for the Witcher series. Now, CD Projekt Red released an official report on the matter stating that they received an official demand for further payment, indicating that Sapkowski expects additional royalties, quote, beyond what had been contractually agreed upon between himself and the company, end quote. He's demanding 6% of the profits obtained by the developer off of his property, saying he's looking to earn 60 million Polish zlotys, which equals out to 16 million US dollars in compensation. He states he's willing to meet with the developer so long as it replies within 14 days and that the meeting occurs no later than October 19th. CD Projekt Red responded saying that the demands are groundless and that they had legitimately and legally acquired copyright for his work to use in games. They noted that they wish to maintain good relations with him and will put effort into make sure the issue is resolved amicably. Now, here's where I have a problem with this author wanting more than what he was contractually, allowed to have, because he originally agreed to a one-time payment from the developer, even though CD Projekt Red was offering to give him a royalties percentage based on profits. And he said, nope, give me my money now. He even did an interview basically saying that, you know, okay, so this guy hates video games. Like, he thinks video games are trash. He thinks that you can't tell a story with video games. So he never expected CD Projekt Red to actually put out a good game and make a profit on his game. He thought it would flop and he wouldn't see anything. That's why he just wanted the lump sum, which I think it literally equaled out to maybe like $60,000. I think is what he got after it was all said and done. Now, also keep in mind, like, this guy's books the sales on them have skyrocketed since the game came out because people who played the game, like myself, who didn't know about his books prior to the game coming out, wanted to read them. And like, originally, like, you couldn't read them in English. Like, I don't even think they were published in English. And so since the games came out and people were like, hey, I want to be able to read this book, his publisher was like, well, we'll release it in English. And so it got released in English, and it was like the first two. And I think there's like upwards of like 9 or 10 books now, like, that are published in English. So it's like, dude, these games have helped give you money. Like, they've helped your book sales. And now there's like a Netflix deal in the works for the show, like for like a Witcher show. Like, this guy's making out like a bandit, and now that he knows that it's a profitable thing, now he's seeing the dollar signs of like, oh, well, you guys owe me all this money now. And then, like, I feel like CD Projekt Red even remotely flirting with the idea of giving him any sort of compensation beyond what they're contractually obligated to, I feel like is kind of opening the door for, you know, further, you know, 5 years down the road, if they do another Witcher game, well, hey, I want more money now again, because you're still making money off of my product or my IP. And I feel like this is just, it's a dangerous thing to play with people who are trying to go beyond the scope of contractual obligations. And I understand, they want to maintain a good relation with him because, without his work, they wouldn't have had the Witcher game to be a success with. I completely understand that. But I don't feel like it's smart to entertain the idea of giving him more money, because I feel like he's just going to want more later on anyway. So, that's all I have for gaming right now. But moving on to movies and television. So today, Thursday, I'm recording this on Thursday. Today, Chris Evans tweeted a rather bittersweet message about his Captain America role. And he said, "Officially wrapped on Avengers 4, it was an emotional day to say the least. Playing this role over the last 8 years has been an honor. To everyone in front of the camera, behind the camera, and in the audience, thank you for the memories. Eternally grateful." It's pretty sad. I feel like Chris Evans has done a great job as Captain America in embodying the role of Steve Rogers, not even just on screen, but even off screen. I really feel like he's constantly, doing charity work. He's constantly bringing awareness to stuff that's important, speaking out against what he feels is wrong, and standing up for what he believes is right. And I'm not a huge Captain America fan, but I'm going to be, I'm going to miss him in the Captain America role. I think he's done a great job with that character. But this news isn't really a surprise, because a while back in March, in an interview, he said that he would likely not renew his contract after Avengers 4. So there's a possibility that more than likely his character is going to be the one to sacrifice himself and because he basically said, like with these kinds of roles, you either have to step out whenever you need to, or get booted out. And so I think this is his way of saying, I'm stepping out. And there's always a possibility later on he could reprise his role depending on how Avengers 4 goes. But my theory is that Captain America is going to be the one to sacrifice himself and save Tony Stark. Because, in Avengers, the first one, he had said that, made the not really a quip, but made the jab to Tony about, you're not the kind of person to lay yourself down to save other people. I know, tons of people that are more valuable than you are. And so I think, Tony, my theory is Tony's going to attempt to sacrifice himself for the good of everybody. And Steve Rogers, because Steve Rogers is so alienated in this modern time, like a total fish out of the water kind of thing. And I think he feels like Tony still has more to offer to the world than what Captain America does. And that it would be more meaningful to the world that Cap is the one to sacrifice himself because of who he is, who Steve Rogers is as a person. He would sacrifice himself. That's just who he is. I mean, we saw it in the first Avenger when Agent Carter, threw that, or whoever it was, threw that grenade out, and he dove on it to save all of his, all the other soldiers around him. He has, the courage, he has the heart, and that's just who Steve Rogers is. So that's what I think is going to happen. But we will see Chris Evans' final MCU film role as of now on May 3rd, 2019. So that's coming up rather quickly. In other news, Jon Favreau shared a pic on Instagram revealing that his live-action Star Wars show will take place after Jango and Boba Fett's storylines, and it will focus on a lone Mandalorian gunfighter in the outer reaches of the galaxy. This show, from the way it was described, it made me think of Firefly and just like a Western sci-fi movie, or TV show rather, and I feel like that's probably what's going to happen. It's going to have a lot of like Western styling to it, and I'm totally okay with that because this is so cool. I'm so glad that they're focusing on non-Force using characters, and Jon Favreau is an amazing director. He's an amazing writer. He did the first two Iron Man movies. He, I think, was a co-writer for Iron Man 3, and I think he helped out with the Avengers movie. He did, what was it? With the food truck. I can't remember what it was called, but it was a really good movie. He's done so many things. He did Elf. Elf is a great Christmas movie. And, so I'm really excited to see what Jon Favreau brings to the Star Wars universe. But the show is actually going to be just called The Mandalorian, which sounds so spaghetti Western to me. It's unreal. But there's no news on an exact release date yet. And it's likely that we'll see more announced at Star Wars Celebration in April of next year. So April of next year, we'll probably see more about it. I know there's just like tons of rumors and fan theories and like all these different things that people, are throwing out there. But right now, there's not really a whole lot known about it outside of what Jon Favreau has posted just the other day. And in other Star Wars news, the president of Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, had her deal extended with the company for 3 more years, lasting through 2021. Despite the box office underperformance of Solo, which that movie is fantastic. We saw it opening weekend. Saw it with my parents and my son, and we all loved it. We thought it was great, and my girlfriend and I really, really enjoyed it. I think we have like the digital copy of it, and we haven't seen it again since theaters, so I don't really know how well it holds up on the home screen. But seeing it on the big screen, it was great. It was fun.